had a bad week.
Good evening, my lovelies. I must say, you all look good enough to eat. Welcome back from our Let's Play Darkstalkers, the Night Warriors, and Vampire Savior. We're back with inarguably the original main character for the series before Morgan took the spotlight, Dmitry Maximov. He is a vampire hailing from Romania. He's quite the analog to Morgan because he's kind of the kin to her Ryu, if you will. They both have fireballs, they both have, you know, uppercuts and all that, but I would say Dimitri's more defining feature is he can disappear. His forward dash is much like Azrael's in BlazBlue. In this game, he can't dash through as many projectiles as he can in Night Warrior and V-Save, I mean, but regardless, he's interesting to play. He's kind of an all-rounder. Again, in the same sense as Morgan, his specials are a lot easier to do, though, like his finishers. By the way, look at my finishers underneath my health bar right there, and if you're 12 years old, you can laugh pretty hard at that. I can only imagine, like, being, like, young and getting that in the arcade and just, like, showing that off to your friends. Like, holy shit, I got the fucking finishers to say sex. But, primer on Dmitry, well, like I said, he's at odds with Morgan because, not for the same reason that John is with Felicia, because they both kinda fight for their own interests, but obviously Dmitry wants to be one of the more ruling powers, so to speak. You'll notice that his sprite has this constant kind of aura around it. That's because, like, he can't be harmed by normal attacks. Like, he has this constant shield around his body that will, in fact, protect him from most normal types of damage and what have you. One of the big reasons he's, kind of essentially rivals with Morgan is that he was one of the original people to fight Belial Einsland, her father. And the crazy thing was, he didn't die. I mean, obviously he's an undead, he's a vampire, but his injuries were so great. This man slept for 50 straight years to recover from them, and the events of Darkstalkers kind of take place after that, so I think in the comics you actually get to see him properly, quote-unquote, fight Belial. He has a pretty good fight scene with her in the anime series, or I should say the OVAs. It's not really like a full-on, straight-up anime. It's more of a 4-part OVA. Darkstalkers did have some level of, like, multimedia. Yeah, it had, like, a full 4-part OVA series with a full-on English dub as well. A whole shit ton of comics. There was, like, the Udon comics, there was Street Fighter vs. Darkstalkers. I think there might have been one more as well, but I'm not fully versed on it. The point being, it was a fairly ambitious series for its time, I guess. The most infamous piece of media there was that there was a full-on animated, like, American cartoon for Darkstalkers, just called Darkstalkers. It was made, I think, in the same vein as, like, the old Street Fighter series and whatnot. Also, he sounds just like Link for some reason. Does that not literally just sound like Link's, regular, well, his taunt in Melee, at the very least. I'm not very good with him, I'll say that now, just why I just lost to a Mirror Dmitry. He's not my main in any sense of the word. But if you like kind of a an offensive character who's a little more patient, you might like Dimitri, because he can do a lot of cool tricks like that. Like, I like how he can dash through things, and his little move where he just, like, disappears and reappears above you for kind of like a weird twist on a dive kick type move, like that. That's cool. I like that. His actual specials are quite fun to use as well. Unfortunately, I didn't pull it off for the sake of just not having to... Oh, by the way, I timed him out twice. Spoilers. That was fun. I love Morgan's theme. It's so iconic. It's not in Darkstalkers 3, but it's in this game. Unfortunately, Lilith doesn't really have, like, a proper theme. She kind of shares a theme with BB Hood, which is kind of unfortunate, but, there is a pretty good fan-made theme of hers. I forgot who made it, but it's an actual, like, CPS2 arrangement of a potential theme for her, which is always cool. So she at least gets something, you know? Take what you can get. It's almost like a proper adage for Darkstalkers. You take what you can get, because there is not a lot to work with, sadly. But yeah, the American cartoon, you might know it because Retsu Prey did a video on it. Called, like, Diablo 4. It's obviously a typical American cartoon of a video game from the 90s, so it's definitely not good at all. The animation is, like, way off, and, like, even though Morgan does have her proper Scottish accent, it's still not very good in any sense, so... I mean, take of that what you will. But they make Morgan out to be, like, a more straight-up villain. So like I said, depending on what publication you subscribe to, so to speak, she can be more villainous, but in the main canon of things, as I said before, she's more of a self-serving anti-hero. But yeah, Dimitri is obviously quite powerful. I would say she's up there with Morgan, or he's up there in Morgan's power just because of the sheer fact that he has this constant aura that can legitimately deflect most regular attacks, which... It's kind of cool that they integrate that into his sprite as well. It's a little nice touch. I think he's, like, trying to usurp Morgan's, domain and whatnot, like take over Castle Einsland. I think that's the general idea of what he's, after. But, other than that... He was kind of originally supposed to be the main character of Darkstalkers. I think in the original game he was more so marketed as the main character, I guess. Because he is, again, kind of a Shoto-style character with more twists. In the third game, they kind of made his fireball more unique, which I'll show off when I play the third game in a few minutes. I'm kind of pissed off right now because I uploaded the third, or the second video, I mean, and then I found out that it didn't render properly after the fact, so while I was at work, I had to set the damn thing to private, because it was all fucked up looking. And then re-upload the damn thing right after that, so... Oh, re-render it and re-upload it, so that was not a lot of fun, but what are you gonna do? Of course, Donovan has that Captain America style, multi-hit, or multi-way kind of move. Interesting to say the least. Donovan is quite fun to play as. He is kind of a, He's why the game was called Vampire Hunter in Japan, just to say that. But we'll get to more of him when we actually play as him. I'm kind of playing the characters in, like, order of their general relevance. Like, obviously, even though Dimitri was never in the Marvel games, he was in some other games. I think the reason they're hesitant to put him in is not because of relevance. It's because of one move that he has that I didn't get to show off, sadly. Just the input's kind of weird, and I hadn't practiced it a lot. Again, not great with this character at all, by any means. He has a move called Midnight Bliss, and the whole gist of that move is he grabs you and will generally turn any character into a girl version of themselves, or some kind of, like, weird personification, if they're already a girl. There's a whole montage of just Midnight Bliss being used, but obviously, for every character in the game, they have to make a whole new sprite for Midnight Bliss. So doing that for Marvel would be kinda tough, especially in a 3D model. I know he's in one other game, and I can't remember if it's, is it Capcom Fighting Evolution, or is it Capcom vs. SNK? I don't know. So I know he can legitimately turn Terry into his, like, female form before it was ever put into SNK heroines, funny enough. But yeah, putting him into a new game would be a lot of fucking work, because you have to make all those sprites just for that, so I can see why they wouldn't do it, I'm just saying. And yet again, on the first try, I destroyed Pyron. I don't know why he's so easy for me when I can't lay one fucking scratch on Morgan. Again, if we're going by cannon power, I would say Morgan's stronger, so makes a lot of sense. There is a special dialogue you get here, which I will show off. And I didn't mention this before. This is a good time to mention this since we're playing as Dimitri. So originally, there actually is one major difference between Darkstalkers 1 and this game. The premise of the story itself was different. In the original game, the premise was that Pyron came to Earth to host a fighting tournament with the idea that, like, whoever won would be, like, the next ruler of what the fuck ever, Earth, I guess. They kinda halfway retconned that in the second game to be that Pyron was like an invading alien, which he still is. I mean, he's an alien. But he was like going off on this invasion to kill everyone on Earth. And it was more, the premise was that the Darkstalkers were kind of like the last bastion of defense for Earth itself. So you get this little special dialogue here, which is not present in either my Morgan or my Felicia victory, so there you have it. And there you have Dimitri's Night Warrior's story. Again, the same cutscene you get if you beat Darkstalkers 1 with him. There's no difference, it's just that the general premise of the game was changed to reflect this kind of new narrative they went with. And of course they defeat Pyron in this game, so he has no actual story relevance in Darkstalkers 3. Kind of is what it is, but again, it's one of those typical old, like, arcade game stories where it's kind of disjointed. As a matter of fact, his Vampire Savior ending is pretty much non-canon, so we'll just kind of watch that for fun. Just why not at this point. Also, what the fuck is up with this sprite? He's like looking like Lord Raptor, other than himself in that scene. Or his head is, anyway. But yeah, if they ever, like, brought him back into a fighting game, they would either have to, like, go all out and just making those Midnight Bliss sprites. or just not have the move, I guess. Of course, he fought QB 500 times now, by that I mean 2 times, so... As you can see, his Fireball in this game now has a special property. Not only does it, you know, do damage, but it shoots out kind of this little bat, which will cling on to the enemy and do additional damage and keep them stunned for a while. So it's a nice little combo starter and whatnot. It's a pretty cool move. Again, fighting a lot of the same dudes, so hence why I skipped through quite a bit of this. Yeah, the soundtrack for this game is fantastic as well. I love just chilling to these tunes. I'll give it to Low Tier God. He's got good taste on when it comes to music for his streams and what have you. I guess I could talk more about like Darkstalkers itself and just why it didn't do so great. I mean, again, it wasn't, for the casual gamer, it wasn't that different from Street Fighter. So they saw no real reason to play it long term. And again, even Street Fighter itself was not doing so good. Like, for all y'all, including myself, who likes Third Strike, Third Strike was kind of a flop, or well, Street Fighter 3 was a bit of a flop at launch. Unfortunately, that was the case. Because Third Strike was, like, really unbalanced. Again, removing a lot of the, like, staple characters wasn't a great idea. I'll admit that, as much as I love the, Third Strike cast, is more so than the classics, because I didn't play a lot of SF2. I didn't play any SF2, actually. I do prefer the SF3 characters, like, from a subjective standpoint, but I get why it was, like, receiving backlash for that, so... Other than that, it was kind of, like, mechanically really fucking weird and janky and just kind of imbalanced, so I get why they chose not to go forward with that direction, like SF4 and SF5 and all that. But yeah, Third Strike, despite being known as like a good competitive game nowadays, only got that reputation later on in its life cycle. Like, back in the day, it was not considered a very good game. And again, all the revisions, you know, had to come to pass to even make that a thing to begin with. Because obviously they brought back characters like Akuma and Chun-Li, and they kind of rebalanced the cast a little more on top of that. And so this series, meanwhile, just kind of fell by the wayside. There was this whole, like, big, high-budget trailer just made for, like, the sake of showing that Darkstalkers wasn't dead. Like, literally, it shows, like, this 3D animation of a couple of characters, and, like, it literally ends the trailer with saying Darkstalkers aren't dead. You can only find this trailer in, like, a camcorder sense. You can't actually find it, in full online, sadly. But obviously this is back in like 2011 or 12, so if anything it kind of proved, well, the opposite, shall we say. And what I'm playing right now, the Darkstalkers Resurrection Collection, was even more unfortunate in that regard, because they brought this in as a kind of measuring stick to see if it was worth it to make another Darkstalkers game. And upon launch, it was $20 for just 2 out of the 3 games, with not a whole lot of, like, actual updates other than just better netcode and online play. There was no particular other reason to, like, get this unless you just kind of wanted to play the old games again. And it was a little bit overpriced to some people at $20 for just the same two games, but just a little more arcade accurate. So, what do you think happened? The game didn't sell that well, and Capcom decided that it wasn't time to release a new Darkstalkers. And so that's kind of where the series has been since this point. We have not gotten any kind of new release or anything. Obviously, we're going to be talking about it. I mean, who knows? Maybe it can be like Zoids, and when I make a Let's Play of it, it could just be revived for some reason, but I'm not holding my breath. Let's just say that. And with those unoptimistic words, I'll leave you all with this part.